Imagine waking up one day but not in your bed, not in your house, not even on the ground. You breathe with difficulty. The air is heavy, cold in a strange way, as if you are deep in the ocean. The light is dim, pulsing as if the walls are breathing with you. You feel like something is watching you, but it's not human, not even something your mind can comprehend. This is what happened to me. When I opened my eyes, I was inside a metallic room, its walls covered with incomprehensible engravings. Everything was strangely familiar, as if I had seen it before in a dream or an old forgotten nightmare. My head hurt, and my eyes could barely adjust to the weak light. I tried to get up, but my body was heavy, as if I hadn't moved in years. There was no door, only a narrow corridor stretching ahead of me, twisting into the darkness like the intestines of a massive creature. Everything in the place looked organic, not polished metal as expected, but something between metal and flesh, pulsing with unnatural heat. I moved slowly, my feet dragging on the strange floor. My breath was the only sound I could hear, until the other sounds started. Whispers, but not human. They weren't coming from a specific place, but inside my head, echoing in my skull like the reverberations of thoughts that weren't mine. Then, I saw it. At the end of the corridor there was a shape, unnaturally tall, its limbs thin as if a mixture of bones and metallic spikes. It had no face, but I felt it was looking at me. It didn't move, but it was closer each time I blinked. It wasn't walking, it wasn't running, but it was there. Closer, closer, as if it were swallowing the distance between us without moving. I felt my body freeze. I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't respond. It wasn't just fear. It was something deeper. It was as if I no longer had control over myself. Then, it began to speak. But its mouth didn't move. It didn't have a mouth at all. Yet I heard its voice inside my mind, as if it was speaking in a language that didn't rely on sound but on thought itself. You are here because you were searching. I didn't understand. Searching for what? I didn't even know how I got here, but I felt like I knew it somehow, as if I had seen it before in childhood dreams I had forgotten, or in nightmares I didn't realize were more than just dreams. Do you remember? I didn't understand the question, but when it said it, memories exploded in my head like a flood. They weren't my life. They weren't my memories. They were something else, something ancient, something beyond time. I saw planets collapse, civilizations wiped out, creatures fleeing in the dark from something indescribable. I saw myself, but not as I am now, rather as I was in another time, in another form. You were not born on Earth. This is impossible. This isn't true. But I felt that it was telling the truth. The place around me began to change. The walls pulsed with greater force. The lights dimmed. The darkness crawled. I felt as if I was sinking into something bigger than space, bigger than time itself. Then, I woke up. But I wasn't in my bed, and I wasn't on the ground. I was somewhere else. A place outside human comprehension, where eyes watch you from the corners of time, where whispers fill your mind, and you can't escape them. I was there and I'm still here, but the real question is, was I the one who went there? Or did something else take my place on Earth? This wasn't just a nightmare. It was more than that. It was something deeper, more real than any dream I'd ever had. I felt everything. The cold that seeped into my bones, the heavy air that was almost tangible, the pulsating walls as if they were living creatures watching me silently. But the most important thing of all was the feeling. The feeling that I was no longer alone. I tried to focus, tried to remember how I got here. I was in my house just moments ago, or that's what I thought. But every time I tried to recall the details, they melted away in my mind, like a memory of someone else, someone who wasn't me. I started hearing other sounds. Not whispers this time, but something else, like buzzing. It was low at first, but it began to grow louder, filling my head, making my thoughts overlap as if something was trying to reprogram me from within. Then, I felt it getting closer. Didn't see it, but I felt its presence behind me. Its breath non-existent, but I could hear it in a way I didn't understand. I froze in place, couldn't turn around, couldn't even breathe. Then it placed its hand on my shoulder. It was cold, unnaturally cold, as if it wasn't a hand but a shadow or something between matter and nothing. Remember, the word echoed in my head. It wasn't a sound but an idea, but it wasn't my idea. I felt as if I was sinking deeper into something illogical, something beyond time. Then, I began to see. The world around me shattered like a broken mirror, shards of light and darkness blending. Screams, cries, and manic laughter filled the air. I saw things I shouldn't have seen. Burning planets, creatures drifting in the dark space, massive entities moving between the stars as if they were an endless sea. Then I saw myself. But it wasn't me. It was something else. An entity that resembled me, carrying my features, but its eyes weren't human. There was something in them, something ancient, something that didn't belong to this world. You are not what you think you are. I tried to scream, but I didn't have a voice. I tried to run, but I didn't have a body. I was something, shapeless, a floating idea in an infinite void inside a nightmare that had no beginning or end. Then, I returned. I woke up, but this time I wasn't in the metallic room. I was in my bed, in my house. Everything was as it was, but I felt something different. I felt I wasn't in the right place. I stood up, looked at myself in the mirror, stared into my eyes. Then I realized the truth. This body wasn't mine. But the question that terrified me the most: if I wasn't the one who woke up in this body, then who am I? My body trembled all over. I was standing in front of the mirror, staring at myself, but it didn't feel natural. It was like looking at an old picture of yourself, but feeling it wasn't yours. As if there was a small detail that didn't belong to me. My eyes were in their place, my nose, my mouth, my hair. Everything seemed the same, but I felt something else lurking inside me. I tried to convince myself I was imagining things, that I was just tired, but the more I ran my hand over my face, the more I felt that my skin wasn't mine, as if it was a mask stuck to me, hiding something else underneath. I heard a voice inside. It wasn't from the outside, but from within. From within me. You are not alone. I jumped back, my heart almost exploding with fear. I tried to breathe slowly, but the air was heavy, as if I were sinking in the darkness. I took shaky steps toward the bed and sat down, holding my head with my hands, trying to comprehend what was happening. But it didn't stop there. I began to see strange things. They weren't visions, they weren't hallucinations, they were memories. But they weren't my memories. I saw a city not on Earth, towering skyscrapers reaching into the sky, but they weren't made of steel or glass, they were made of living black material, breathing, pulsing like a giant heart. In the streets there were creatures moving, not human but not monsters either. They were tall, slender, with gray translucent skin and wide black eyes staring blankly into space. I was there, or rather, the other was there. The entity that now occupies my body. It was walking through that strange city, speaking in a language I couldn't understand, but it knew it well. It was part of that world, it was one of them. I felt a shudder in my body. How could I see its memories? How could I live a life I never lived? Who was it? Or rather, who am I now? I recoiled further into the bed, but suddenly, I felt something moving inside me. It wasn't just a sensation, it was real. Something inside my skin, under my bones, as if I were just a vessel trying to let something else out. I screamed. I screamed as loud as I could, but the sound that came out wasn't my voice. It was something else, a deep, distorted voice, as if it were the echo of several voices speaking together. Then, I heard the knocking at the door. I froze in place. Who was outside? It was 3 a.m., no one was supposed to be here. I looked at the door. The darkness surrounded it, but I felt something standing behind it, waiting. The knocking repeated, this time louder, more insistent. I got up slowly, my feet barely carrying me. I approached the door, placed my trembling hand on the knob, then stood hesitating. Should I open it? Do I want to know who is standing there? But before I could decide, the door opened by itself. The cold air rushed inside, and the darkness outside seemed even denser than it should, as if it wasn't just the absence of light but a being in itself. Then, from the heart of that darkness, something moved. I couldn't see it clearly, but it was tall, taller than any normal human, and its eyes were glowing with a faint yellow light. It didn't move like humans, but as if it were sliding silently without steps, just getting closer and closer. Then it spoke. "It's time to return." Its words were simple, but their impact on me was like a lightning strike. I couldn't move, I couldn't respond. But the problem wasn't just in its words, it was in the fact that I knew its voice. I had heard it before. In my dreams, in my memories that weren't mine, inside me. Then I remembered everything. I wasn't human originally. I wasn't me. I was something else. I belonged to that distant world. I was part of that living black city. But I had forgotten. Or rather, I had been trapped inside this human body in this false life. And this thing standing before me now came to take me. I tried to resist, but it was too late. I began to feel my body fading as if it were dissolving into the air. My eyes lost their ability to see, and I heard nothing except the buzzing that started everything. Then, before everything disappeared, I realized the final truth. This wasn't the first time this had happened to me, and it wouldn't be the last.